Welcome to Mom Friend Material with Cherie
and Jada.
Right, you guys, we've got a super special episode today. We have our very first guest, my real estate bestie, Rosemary Lewis. Welcome to the show, Rosemary.
Hey, ladies, how are you?
We are doing good. So, Rosemary and I met in Dallas earlier this year, and we just a happenstance sat next to each other at this speaker lunch at this event we were both speaking at, and realized we both have podcasts, and we were chit-chatting, and let me tell you, her speech really just resonated with me because as busy moms, entrepreneurs, we talk so much about how important our morning routine is. But Rosemary came in, flipped the script, and talked about how important the nighttime routine really is. And so that really resonated with me. And I came home, I was telling Jade, I'm like, we have to get her on the podcast to talk about this nighttime routine.
I had a major FOMO for not getting to go this year. And I'm like, how dare they plan something in April? And I missed out all these golden nuggets and meeting all these cool people. So happy to finally get to meet you in virtual presence. So
yes, I feel like I know you because, of course, after Cherie and I met and she told me that she had a podcast, that you all had a podcast, I went and I'm like, I'm one of your mom friends. So I already feel very familiar with you all, and I'm just so excited to be here and look, shed some light on the importance of this night routine, child, because it is very important.
Yes. So before we jump into it, so Rosemary, like we just said, she does have her own podcast. You can find her because we do have a lot of realtor followers. I think it's just the nature of who we are. Jada and I are both licensed realtors. Rosemary is also a realtor in Dallas. So if you're looking to move in Dallas, you know who to reach out to. But for our realtor followers, she has a real estate podcast called Real Estate Bestie. And so you can find her. Where can we find you, Rosemary?
Anywhere that a podcast is playing. So that is Apple, that's iTunes, that is Audible. And then actually we do it like audio only on YouTube as well. And I also have a YouTube channel where I just share a lot of just real estate tips with all my real estate besties. The whole idea behind the podcast is that, as you all know, this business can feel lonely. And it can feel like you're doing it by yourself. And so often I think about the relationship that I have with my real life best friends. And I'm like, that's what I want to help create. Like, who is that friend that you can talk to and you can tell about all the raggedy stuff that happened, these buyers that were liars, these sellers that were unrealistic, or just managing your emotions, right? I feel like I'm killing it at real estate, but I'm failing at home. So Real Estate Bestie is truly meant to be an inclusive place where we can celebrate together. We can talk about how life is lifing together, and we can just eat and also share tips on how we can thrive in the business. So I welcome your listeners who are real estate agents to come on over. But honestly, I think a lot of things that we talk about will work for any industry. So, we just want to grow the Real Estate Bestie. So I'm excited that you all are here.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Well, so let's dive in. So I know you touched on the importance of having a nighttime routine. And y'all, let me tell you, Rosemary, so we both spoke at this event, and she gets up there on day 2 and she's like lining up. She brings a table, she's got books, and I'm like, what is this girl doing over here? Like, I had no idea what we were even going to talk about, but she had this great setup that was so visually just it make sense. And so she had all these books and stuff. So I'll let you talk about really what kind of spurred this thought that the nighttime routine is just this vital piece that we're all missing.
Yeah. So prior to becoming a real estate agent, I was an elementary school teacher for 14 years. And, one of the first things I think about, and we are all moms here. So, once the school year starts, what do we want to do? We want to start getting our kids set up on their evening routine, get your dinner, brush your teeth, get in bed at a reasonable time. Like, we understand from a mom perspective that the way that we help our children in their night will have a direct effect on how the morning goes, right? And then you fast forward to adulthood, or at least my experience when I transitioned careers, I would try to soak up all the books. I tried to soak up, just any information that I could gather on what it takes to be successful. And one thing that I heard over and over and over, which I'm pretty sure you all have heard, is that you have to have a morning routine, right? All the millionaires are in the 5 a.m. club. You have to start your day well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying blah, 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 because I truly do believe that, right? I am a firm believer in a morning routine. But what would happen to me is, I set my alarm. So I would go from, that morning battle of, I'm trying all the tricks, but just getting out of the bed was way harder than it looked like it. And I'm like, well, is it me? Is it a willpower thing? So already starting the day feeling defeated if I couldn't get out of bed exactly as people told me I should. Or I would get out of bed and I would start it and I would feel good about my morning only to hit a wall in the afternoon. And not feel as productive. And I'm like, okay, something has to give. And one day, it was about 1.5 to 2 years ago, I was up late at night, doing what superficial real estate work, right? Probably looking at reels to see what reel I can copy.
Right.
So superficial, right? And I looked at the clock and it was after midnight. And I immediately I was like, ugh, this morning, this 5 a.m. alarm is going to go off. And as I was about to change the alarm from 5 to 6, it dawned on me like, girl, your morning routine is trash and inconsistent is because your night routine is trash and inconsistent. So I just started to experiment with, okay, what does it look like? Like if I put myself and gave myself a routine just as I gave my son or I recommended my students' parents did for them, what would that look like? And, as crazy as it seems, and it was much harder to shut down than I thought it would be. But once I started putting that routine in place, it has just made my days so much different. And I gave the analogy like bookending your day, right? Starting like having that morning routine bookend and then having that night routine bookend. And then what happens is that it just helps to provide some structure that I definitely was missing. So when I figured it out for myself, I started sounding off to everybody else. Like, you have to get a night routine. And that's pretty much the way it started.
Yeah. The visual she created at this conference where, you got your morning routine bookend and then all these books, and then, you kind of let the books fall and they're like slumped over. And it really created such a visual that resonated with me because I was like, dang, like how true is that? Like I'm horrible about, playing on my phone in the evening where we've got the TV on. And then I'll just straight up fall asleep on the couch because it's been an exhausting day and I'm not prioritizing. But when I've kind of rethought, and look, my nighttime routine is a work in progress, but I've been working on it and it does really make a big difference. Like last night, I was in the middle of a movie and instead of trying to push through and like see if I can finish the movie, I was like, you know what? At 9:30, I turned it off. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go lay in bed. My husband was like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, I just need a good night's sleep tonight. And I slept great. And today it's been productive so far. So, I mean, it really can make a huge difference. And I think so many people don't think about it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you're right. Like our industry, and I think this is probably a lot of business people, but the morning routine gets pounded into our heads. And it's like really without a successful night routine, that evening routine is, or I'm sorry, the morning routine is going to be a big struggle.
It is. And I think that, what happens a lot of times is that we don't prioritize rest, right? Mm-hmm. We don't prioritize exactly how powerful rest is in our lives. And again, it's just a game changer when you do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell us, what does your nighttime routine look like? What time do you start winding down? You've already kind of shared you get up around 5 a.m. ish. And so what does your nighttime routine look like?
So I'm happy to report that I actually get to push my start time a little bit later because my son's in middle school now. So because he's in middle school, they start school he has to be at the bus 30 minutes later than last year. Because what I realized because again, I do think morning routines are solid. So when I think about going through my morning routine, it's ideal that I have about an hour to an hour and a half by myself in the morning before somebody needs me, right? And
Mhm.
then I work it backwards. Okay, so I also figured out from trial and error that I need about 7 hours worth of sleep. Right. So
Yep.
if I'm needing to be up, my son, I have to have him up now at 6:45. So that means that in a perfect world, right, I'm getting up somewhere between 5 and 5:30, so that I can have that time to myself before he gets up. So that looks like me being in bed by like 10, falling asleep by 10:30. On that stage, I shared with you all this formula, and I actually got it from another podcast. I think I got it from Mel Robbins. And
Mhm.
she gave the example of using 3, 2, 1, which is 3 hours before bedtime, stop eating, 2 hours before bedtime, stop working, and 1 hour before bedtime, no technology. Okay. Now, I would love to sit here and be like, I do that every single time, but no, I don't. I don't. But the part that I am consistent with is the no technology after at 9 o'clock. Like, I literally have an alarm that goes off on my phone every single day at 9 p.m. And it
Mhm.
says, sis, put your phone away, rest your
Mhm.
mind. And then I even included my 12-year-old in that. And I told him, like, mommy, because it's also like a signal for us all to be shutting down. Like, by the time my alarm goes off, he should have showered. Like, we get to start breaking down our house. And he just loves, he loves to tell me and to come take my phone and put it away. Because now he has some ownership, right? He gets to tell me what to do. And that's pretty much what it looks like. So I do I try to stop eating. It's just like sometimes if we have a practice or I may not be home to have dinner by 7 o'clock, but I try my best to stick as close to that 3, 2, 1 as possible. But the non-negotiable for me is definitely that hour, no technology, an hour before bed. And all my friends know, right? All my friends know, my family knows. So, like, I'm even sitting here right now with one of my good friends who works with me. One time I was on Instagram and like I sent her a message at like 2:30 in the morning because I woke up in the middle of the night. And she's like, ma'am, what are you doing on the internet at 2:30 in the morning? So having that extra built-in accountability has been a game changer in me being honest to that process myself.
And I mean, really, like, thank God for friends who hold us accountable, because we're all on this journey together. And, I mean, we're all failing forward. So I've had those moments too where in the middle of the night you pull it up, but with good validation that, you're moving in the right direction, she's going to hold you accountable.
Yep, no, for sure, for sure.
I love that. I love that. So let's see. We talked about our night routine, what your night routine looks like. Let's see. Jada, what do you have? Do you have any questions for Rosemary? I know we kind of talked about a lot of the bulk.
So I'm 100% with. I had one night where I had to stay away from home, and one of my parts of my night routine is tea. Something
Mm.
mentally about it, like the placebo effect of coffee with me this in the mornings, that it's going to hype me up. I don't think it does anymore. So tea, so tea is the night version of that for me, to where it like
Yeah,
helps settle me down, and literally not having that disrupted my sleep that night, not being home, because that was a
yeah,
part of what settled my brain down. And I mean, honestly, it's crazy in starting to do that, because Cherie told me about how it went at the conference and all that stuff. So I was like, you know what? I hate getting up in the morning. I do it because I have to, but then, I'm sluggish and all this kind of stuff. But now, since I felt like my body wakes up. I don't
yeah.
need the alarm clock to do it. I'm feeling rested. But one of those wake up calls to like making sure I shut my body down and getting the proper rest is like, you know, when they're like, oh, do you want to like lose all your stomach weight and this and that? And it's
Go
like,
to sleep.
sleep. I'm like, what?
Yep, yeah.
Sleep? You burn the most calories in your sleep. You mean like all this working out that I've been doing and like the salad and it's sleep to be able to get a good quality amount of sleep. So like stop this. I put my phone on the charger now and I'm like, okay. And it stays on vibrate, because if I hear it ding or I see it light up, I'm like, I want to go reach for it.
Yeah.
And like that mental programming to like, okay, it's whatever it is not important. And I have found myself getting upset if somebody will text me after a certain, and I go and I call or whatever, and it's trivial. I'm upset because I'm like,
it is.
It's supposed to be an emergency, and you just wanted to talk. Talk to me tomorrow.
And that's a big thing, because I do think, especially in our profession, right? Everything seems so urgent. But like truly and honestly, I can really count. I've been full-time in real estate for 6 years. I can truly count probably on one finger how many times I had an urgent situation that truly needed my attention after 9 p.m. Right now. I would need all of everybody's fingers and toes to talk about, when I just felt urgent, like, oh my gosh, like I have to respond to this right here and right there. And truly and honestly, you don't. One thing that I didn't mention that I didn't do that night that I was on Instagram, is I actually charged my phone in a different room. So I actually have, like, it is in our guest room across the house. That is where my phone lives at night. And then I went out and I got an alarm clock from Amazon. And it's one of those alarm clocks that like mimics like the sun starts rising 10 minutes before I'm set to get up. And then at the actual time that I want to get up, the birds start chirping, and you can set it to white noise, whatever you want. But that was something else, is that I always felt like, even with my phone, I never really rested, because I would put it down, but I would keep you, like, if you put your phone away, then you will really realize how addicted we are to these devices, right? So either having it next to my bed, kept it in my hand, but then let's just say I finally did go to sleep. I would wake up so abruptly to that phone alarm clock that I just wasn't, it just felt like I was jolted into the day. So making those changes, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm at 100%, but it definitely, I would say about 85% of my nights, when and definitely when I honor the night routine, my morning routine is great. Like I check all those boxes, and I'm not mad about waking up. You know why? Because I've actually had rest that night. Or the last thing that I did before I went to sleep was, I wasn't, looking at everybody's life on Instagram, where now I'm playing that movie in my mind all night and never truly achieving rest. But y'all, it was hard, and it still is hard. It's really hard. And I find it to be harder when some of our built-in routines aren't there, like when the kids are not at school. I recently experienced the loss of a very close friend. So I just found myself looking to technology to kind of numb me, because I didn't want to be in touch with my feelings. But the beautiful thing about having a routine is that, like, your body and your mind remembers. So even as I try to veer, naturally would veer away from it, it's like, nope, let me go back to these structures and get back to bookending this day, because I know that I'm going to be better for everybody else when I when I do these things.
That's awesome. I love the idea about the alarm clock, the sunrise alarm clock, because there is nothing worse than when my alarm wakes me up out of like the dead of sleep. Yeah. And I'm a morning person. Like, I am usually awake before my alarm goes off. However, there are definitely times whenever it's like so abrupt, and I'm like, and you're just disoriented going into the day, which is not a great way. So I love that tip. And I think, the routine, whenever we have times of struggle, or, you're out of your normal routine otherwise, like, it's amazing what having that little slice of just normalcy to add back into your life, to just go, nope, this is what we're doing. It gives you that little piece of normal back, especially when we're experiencing loss, or, something that's really difficult, because you're right. Like, we sit there and you do feel kind of lost, and you're trying to numb that pain. But when you give that little slice of like, this is what's supposed to happen, and your body and mind are expecting it. It's just, look, we're just big kids. We expect that from our kids. That's whenever, what do they need when they feel those trials and tribulations? And, mine will thrive in routine. At the end of this summer, we were on the struggle bus. Like, we were struggling.
Everybody was. Yeah, it's and here is the next part. And I don't know about you all, but like, I have a kiddo who isn't necessarily a morning person, right?
Yep.
So what I find is that when and this is something else, because I know there's probably a mom here. First of all, let me just say, you may be in a season of life where maybe you can't carve out an hour, I'm describing, but can you carve out 15 minutes? Like, can you adapt this to fit the season of life that you're in? And I'm going to encourage you to do so, because what I find is, like, when I have a good night's sleep and when I give myself time in the morning, I'm way more patient with my son, right? So whether he is having, a stellar morning, or if it's a morning where he's needing a little bit more support, I have the capacity to be more compassionate towards him, right? And not sending him out to school in a frenzy because I'm not frazzled.
Yeah.
It's just funny. I will be in, like, I never forget one time I was in a real estate transaction. And this lady, the other agent, she was so like, I was like, girl, do you have a morning routine, a night routine? Because it's not this serious. Like, I think, and I sent her, I did 2 episodes on my podcast. I was like, seriously, sis, nothing that we're talking about requires this much emotion. I really want you to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm better for my clients. Like, I'm better for everybody around me when I make the effort to, to be honest and make these routines as non-negotiable as possible.
Do you feel like it's more a reward for yourself to have these things? This is time that I get for myself to love on myself in the mornings, in the evenings. Like, it's a treat, instead of feeling like this is an obligation to my day. I have to get rid of my phone. Flipping it to say, this is something I'm doing for myself, to make this time to pour back into myself so that I'm better for everybody else I have to serve in the day.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely. And I love, like, what you're saying, Jada, is like, it literally is about mindset. Like, how am I looking at this experience? And, I'm a Peloton person. So one of the instructors, she always says, it's not what we have to do, what we get to do, right? I get to give this body rest and replenish it. And unfortunately, we are especially in our profession, but I dare to say most professions, even if your current role right now is support being the manager and the engineer of your household, we're just taught hustle, hustle, hustle. You have to do this and, stay on top of this. And I was like, I was on a team, and one of the dumbest, I hate to call something dumb, but the dumbest piece of advice I ever got from somebody was, you really don't need as much sleep as you think you do. Like, girl, and that planted a seed in my head. Like, I should be able to function off of 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And that's not true. Even Jesus rested, or God rested, when he created the heavens and the earth. So why we think that we're supposed to do it all and, not take care of ourselves, it is beyond me. And so some of the things that I used to look at as treats, like Instagram, like Netflix and chilling, and I still find room for those things, but it just looks different. And I really understand that being able to rest and replenish myself is a game changer. And again, not only am I good for me, but I'm going to be good for everybody around me.
Was that a man that told you that?
It actually was not. It was a mom of 5 kids.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
it was not.
there's all those studies out there that talk about how women need more sleep. Statistically, we need like an hour. It's like an hour more sleep than men, which I find to be relatively true in our household. Like, my husband can stay up later than I can, and we can get up around the same time, and he's
fine,
fully functioning. I mean, he, even when we had our son, like, he was, look, praise to my husband for being so actively involved and getting up and doing the night feeds and all this. There were times where I didn't even hear the baby crying, and he was up, but he functioned at a way higher level than I did even back then. But even now, like, I'm like, oh, I need more sleep. Like, I gotta get at least, I'm with you. 7 is like really prime. 7.5, that's like you feeling really good. Anything less than that, I start feeling like a subpar version of myself. And so I was just curious if that was like a men's perspective, because there are all those studies that say men don't need as much sleep as we do.
No, it was a woman, and quite honestly, I just feel like, in that season of her life, I don't know what it looks like now. It was hustle culture. It was, production, and I have to do this and I have to do that by any means necessary. And I do know that there was like she had to slow down, because that's what happens. If we don't slow down, our bodies will slow us down. God will slow us down. And there is no, I feel like there is no shame in, we're in a little bit of a better society in the terms of like self-care is cool. It's cool to take care of yourself, but I'm going to extend it beyond getting a facial, getting your eyebrows done, and getting your nails done. Go ahead and get some sleep. Go ahead and get some sleep and truly rest your mind, because like, y'all, I even go as far, and again, recently, with my friend passing away, like even just the chatter in my head was so loud that I got a sleep mask, just to help me quiet all of the noise, so that I could actually rest, process, think. And that's the thing. I don't think most people have an opportunity to just think anymore, because we're so filled with our responsibilities and other people's thoughts and consuming other people's lives that we don't actually get to think about like whatever it is that we need to focus on. So yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. I've learned to try to break away from that hustle culture, and I'm not trying to do an infinite sales number or anything like I want to serve people, and I want to serve them on a very high level. I want to serve my family, and I think when you get caught up in that, which is so easy to do, I think in any industry, but specifically if you're self-employed, you really feel it because you feel this weight on your shoulders. And so it's like when you don't give your body that opportunity to rest, typically what happens to me when I do that is I get sick. And that I take that as God saying, you've been feeling like you needed rest for the last few weeks and you didn't give it to yourself. So now I'm going to force you to give your body some rest so that you can kind of recover and move forward,
He'll tell you to sit your butt down. He'll lay you down. He'll lay you down.
Yes, he will lay you down. And even with that, this is just another thing that I just want to point out is that, giving clarity to your day, right? I think that when I started enacting a night routine, which essentially I would end my day a little earlier, I became really selective on how I spend my time. So like I'm just not spending my time showing up and doing any old thing, and I am much more aware of how I am spending my idle time. Okay. And I'm not saying that I don't ever scroll the web, that I'm never doing any of those things, but sometimes it's like, oh, it's 6:30. You better hurry up and get dinner started, or, do whatever it is you have to do because you're going to be going to bed soon. So it has made me just a little bit more aware on how I'm spending my time in that middle portion, so that I don't have a lot of fallout that needs my attention later on in the evening.
Yeah. I think it comes down to, we hear all the time, like, when you fail to plan, it's all going to fall apart. I'm like trying to find the saying, but like plan to fail.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
There you go. There you go. And I think that that's really where the root of this kind of starts is like, let's start planning your day the night before. How much more does that set you up for success? I enacted like a wind down routine from business. At the end of the day, doesn't always happen because look, nobody's perfect, but I do my best to try to just say like, all right, like I've checked this off. I kind of do this brain dump because at the end of the day, for me, it's that end cap, that end bookend that it's like, all right, cool. I can now go sit on the couch. I can go play with my kid. I can prep dinner. I can do whatever. And my mind is still racing. So it's, kind of a testament that book end that holds everything together really can give you so much more stability than just the nighttime routine. It really reflects throughout the entire day.
No, absolutely. I completely, 1,000,000% agree with that. And then something else that you're doing too is we're modeling this behavior for our kids, right?
Yeah.
We can tell them 100 times, go to bed. Like you should be asleep. I can't believe you. But like, mom, you sitting up all night watching TV. Like, why can't I? So this is a way to just model a lifelong skill that will, we know will help them not only in childhood, but it'll help them throughout adulthood as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that this was an awesome topic to cover. I hope our mamas really resonate with this and that you take a few things. So, Rosemary, for our mamas that are listening, what would be the number one thing? Like, what's the first step that you would recommend our listeners do if they decide they listen to this and they go, we're going to implement this nighttime routine? What's the one thing that you would tell them to start with?
It's going to be the hardest thing, but put your phone to bed an hour before you do. Get it out of your room, get it out of your arm's reach, but put it to bed an hour before it's time for you to go to bed.
I think that that's probably far more powerful than what any of us really realize until you do it and you break the habit. And then you go, it's kind of nice.
Yep.
No. Well, anyway, we appreciate you coming on the Mom Friend Material podcast. I am so glad that we are real estate bestie and mom friend material friends for life. So thank you so much, Rosemary. And to our listeners, where can they find you if they want to connect or they want to listen to the podcast? Where can they find you on the internet? I know we talked about where they find the podcast, but where can they find you specifically?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I am on Instagram as Rosemary the Realtor. And on Facebook, I think you just put my name, Rosemary Lewis. There's a few of us out there, but you just look at the pictures. You'll try to figure out who I am.
There you go. She's
then
probably wearing bright pink.
Yeah, probably wearing bright pink, right. And then my website is rosemarylewis.com.
There we go. All right, friends. And again, Rosemary serves the Dallas, Texas area. So if you are looking for a referral partner out there, or if you were looking to move, Rosemary, she's amazing. You need to reach out to her. So thank you so much. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks, ladies.